Okay, so we're 1 week away from the start of the 2024 Paris Games. The opening ceremony takes place a week today in the evening in Paris. There's expected to be 200,000 people lining the banks of the River Seine. The opening ceremony is meant to be very, very lavish and one of the biggest ever, and also very, very expensive with a lot of security concerns, which is why there is a no-fly zone over Paris and the surrounding Ile-de-France region next Friday. That impacts 3 international airports, obviously famously Charles de Gaulle, which is the biggest, Paris Orly, which is the second biggest, and Paris Beauvais, which is the smallest of the 3 and normally handles with more the internal regional flights, although some international flights take place from there. That means 3 major international airports that link to Paris are going to be impacted by a no-fly zone, which means the other airports in France are going to have to pick up the slack. Which is where the French airport workers come in. Now, the French airport workers are threatening to go on strike. This is to do with their work hours over the Olympic period, or the overtime they've got to do, and bonuses. They were expecting their bonuses to either be paid now or paid quite quickly, and there seems to be issues surrounding workers' bonuses and the workers' hours plus overtime during the Olympic period. With the fact that the 3 Paris airports will have no flights landing or taking off a week today, as I say, the other airports in France will be heaving with people. Now, obviously, what we've seen today is the CrowdStrike IT failure, which has impacted Windows operating systems, which has caused havoc for air travel around the world. This is another headache the French government and the French organisers for the Paris Games do not want. Now, France has got some problems. There's a lot of labour unrest in the country. There's been multiple strikes since President Macron has been in charge of France. We have covered some of those issues on the other channel, the History Boffin, at length, several years ago, mind, but these ongoing strikes and protest movements have not gone away. So the yellow vests, for example. So there's a lot of labour unrest with the trade unions and French workers, and this is now spilled over into the airport workers. Now, French air traffic control and French airport workers and airlines have gone on strike multiple times, as I say, since President Macron has been in charge. This latest IT outage over the last 24 hours is also causing havoc, because some of the sports fans from around the world who want to come and watch the Olympics may want to come early, get in there so they can get into Paris, get their spot in the opening ceremony along the banks of the Seine, book their hotels and watch the opening ceremony. So there's already been travel chaos, which has also impacted the train network. And France, unlike other parts of the world, has a very strong trade union movement. Now, I try and keep politics off this channel, but this could be a bit of a awkward moment for the organisers, considering they've already got a corruption investigation into 2 companies that were tasked with building the infrastructure, so the stadiums and arenas for the games, and basically the organising committee have been under investigation for embezzlement. Now, that came out at the same time that the French pulled out of hosting next year's Rugby League World Cup for lack of funds. Now, the French government has spent a lot of money on sporting infrastructure and major sporting events in recent years. We've just seen the Rugby World Cup not that long ago. We saw the Euros not that long ago, and the Women's World Cup as well. So they've spent a lot of money bidding for and hosting major sports events, and also the related infrastructure. It has come at a cost. French football, for example, is in serious financial difficulty. French Rugby League has a really poor relationship with the French government as well, but partly because of the World Cup basically being pulled due to lack of funds. So there's unrest in the sporting world in France. All is not well. If the airport workers go on strike, this will be a massive embarrassment for the IOC, for the Paris organisers, and of course President Macron, who is not an overly popular political figure in France. And as I say, France has got a lot of social and economic issues that a lot of people, when they go on holiday there, tourists, or go and watch sport there, say in the Champions League or Europa League or with rugby union, you don't necessarily see. There's a lot of inequality, and there's a lot of labour unrest. There's a lot of things that aren't working well in France right now, and if the airport workers do go on strike in relation to their bonuses and overtime pay, this could really pose massive logistical problems for the Olympic Games. Because of that no-fly zone over Paris and the surrounding Ile-de-France region, As I say, the trains into Paris are going to be exceptionally busy, and the other airports will be at or over capacity with the amount of people expected to come into France from outside of France. So it's going to be a headache for the organisers if that strike goes ahead, potentially. It could be called off, but from the sounds of it, there could be strikes next week. The security concern is out of this world. The opening ceremony is meant to be very, very lavish, very expensive, and a security nightmare for the gendarmes and the regular police in Paris and the surrounding region. And the French government has put a lot of energy into this Olympics and has basically spent a lot of money on this Olympics. So they want it to go off reasonably well. But look what happened to Tokyo. Look what happened to the government standing in Japan. It really impacted the Japanese government, which then led to a change of prime minister. And the Japanese people rarely protest. They were protesting against that Olympics. Now, they delayed it by a year, but there were protests, and then there was a lot of Japanese didn't want the Olympic Games, didn't want it. But reverse 12-24 months, they were really happy with the Rugby World Cup. They weren't happy with the Olympics. There were cost overruns. There was some logistical issues, and then COVID hit. And the organising committee wanted to forge ahead. And as time went on, the Japanese public basically weren't overly keen on hosting the Olympics, delayed Olympics in 2021, and it led to a protest movement. It'll be interesting to see how the French public embrace these games, but there is the chance of transportation strikes starting with the airports. It could spread to the trains, it could spread to the trams and the other public sector transport network, and it could be quite a headache. But we'll see what happens. But there is a threat of a strike by French airport workers just before the Olympics starts next week. Let's see what happens. I'm actually looking forward to this Olympics a little bit more than the Tokyo and Beijing games we've just seen with the Summer and Winter Olympics in that cycle. But we'll see what happens, and we'll see if the French can pull off this extravaganza that they plan, because they have, as I say, really gone with the opening ceremony big, brash and bold. Could that backfire? Could there be strikes, and will the French public buy in? Like other host cities have had the public buy-in. Other host cities for the Olympic Games have been beset by problems, and I can do a history video on Olympic Games that haven't proven popular in countries and cities that have hosted them. Montreal sticks out as a real prime example. Athens is another one. 2004, which left a financial black hole that the local government in Athens and the Greek government as a whole are still trying to fill. Other games like London went off really well and actually created a lot of positivity and actually made more money than was anticipated and actually cost less to put on. Other games have had massive overruns and haven't been profitable. Montreal is a big one because, again, there was a lot of labour unrest, strikes, and they didn't complete all the venues in time. They were still building them in the day, literally almost up to opening ceremony. And the 76 Olympics is well known as one of the least popular Olympics of all time. So we'll see where Paris ranks in the end scheme of things, and we'll see if the French sporting public buy into them. But there we go. Week to go until opening ceremony, but there's the potential of an airport strike from airport workers before and potentially during the Olympic Games as well. But from me for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the Paris 2024 Olympics. And I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.